I started my interest in music by just listening to the radio when my parents would turn it on in the morning after their daily toil, getting myself ready for school, hearing what they used to play, which certainly wasn't rock and roll. It was big band things. Anytime they could find.
How old are you? So we're getting
not really old enough to know. They used to tape all the radio programs for Harry James, Benny Goodman, and people like that. This was in New York. I'm a native New Yorker, not New York City, but upstate New York, right square in the middle of it almost. And from that early influence, just listening to that big band thing in those days, it was kind of boogie music actually, the forerunner of the boogie that you hear now. My father one day said to me, "Right, how would you like to play an instrument?" I said, "Well, what's that?" I wanted to play ball. I didn't care about playing an instrument. He said, "Well, if you hear something that you like on the radio, pick it out and let me know." Well, luckily I didn't. There was no tuba piece on at the moment. It was Harry James. And I said, "That sounds good. What do you call that thing?" My father, being the brilliant musical intellect that he was, said, "I don't know, I'll call someone and find out for you." And so he did, and he found out that Harry James played clarinet. Oh, no, sorry, even I've forgotten. Harry James was a trumpet player. My father said, "Well, I'll pick you up a trumpet tomorrow when I go to the pawn shop." So he happened to pass the pawn shop.
Is that relative to pornographic?
Yes, it is pornographic. I was a very pornographic trumpet player as well. He picked me up a horn. I played it for a while, and that was my early classical training. I played in orchestras with violins and cellos and violas and bassoons and timpani and all of that instead of guitars. I had many formal lessons. I was at one point going to go to Juilliard. I had a scholarship to Juilliard for playing trumpet. But in that interim between having a chance to go to Juilliard and doing what I like to do, I one day heard a band that had trumpets, amazingly enough, in it, and the trumpet player stood up and sang "Hound Dog," and I went, "That is where it's at. I mean, that's what's done it. Hound Dog is the thing. I don't care if he's a trumpet player, whatever he is." And just from, I can still remember that first day, hearing that the person doing that. I said, "No more trumpet. Got to do something else." So I picked up a guitar, learned to play it a bit, not very well at all, still don't. But it was at least a rock and roll influence. From there, my whole life was channeled towards volume music, hard, inside your stomach, gut music, instead of Harry James. The track that most exemplifies the medieval music that we've been talking about is a song called 16th Century Greensleeves, inspired by Elvis Presley, written by Judy Garland.
Robin Hood.
Oh, sorry. Written by Robin Hood, but we are taking publishing on whatever Robin Hood has written since then. Anyway, the song is our idea of a castle where the Black Knight lives. The Black Knight, of course, being Richie. And the Black Knight periodically comes out of his castle and captures a young peasant maiden from the village where they're all living in squalor, brings her back to the castle. He's very, very rude. And he does this over the period of 15 or 20 years. I haven't really sorted it out yet. Finally, one day, the peasants say, "Wrong. You've taken the wrong chick. This is the chick that is going to save the village, so we're going to revolt against you."
Why is she going to save the village?
She's going to save the village because she has 11 fingers on one hand. Now, this obviously becomes a portent of vast capability. So, in order to save those 11 fingers on one hand, by the way, she doesn't have a left hand. The 11 are on her right hand, and she only has 9 toes, which means that it all comes back around to having only 20 digitals. So, in that case, seeing that she's all that fouled up anyway, they decide to revolt against the Black Knight, and they cut down the castle, or they cut down the drawbridge. They would cut down the castle if they had a sharp enough knife or whatever. Actually, they attacked the castle, or as they say in Hounslow, the castle. They attack the castle,
yes,
and they cut down the drawbridge, and they hang up the Black Knight right by his left thumb. And then they put him in the fire, and they take over the village. Well, I guess what it kind of comes down to is that we've had quite a change from the 16th century to now the 20th century, whereby we're all very, very free people, able to do with our money what we want to do, and with our lives what we want to do. And if you believe that, anyone out there, you are wrong, and wrong. But the point is that this is a song called 16th Century Greensleeves, and I think the music will convey to you that medieval was our intent and our concept, and we hope it's a new kind of rock and roll music anyway. It's something that we like a lot.
It's only 400 years old. This is Richie Blackmore speaking again. When we formed Rainbow, Ronnie and I had the same interests in music, which were basically medieval classical roots, such as Bach. Actually, the whole LP was inspired by Johann, who was there some of the time. And a lot of the progressions we used were classical progressions. That is not as drastic as it sounds. They're still rock progressions, because I believe that Bach, even in the 16th century, was still playing in a way that was very relative to the way that people are playing today, which is very rhythmical. And we both had the same interests, so we tried to incorporate these medieval parts, and we used a lot of modes instead of scales. Scales being what we use today, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, and modes. We incorporated a lot of modes, which meant using weird chords, but we found that it worked with a rock backing. We achieved this on about 4 tracks, which I'm very excited about, because I've never done this before, and it turned out very well.
Rainbow, I think, has its greatest influence from Richie.
Hey!
Now that I've gotten that over with, I'd just like to say that the greatest influence will be myself, probably. Our greatest influence definitely was Richie. Richie's guitar playing, sense of rhythm, all of the qualities that I had always missed in working with a musician of Richie's caliber. What we eventually blended together, I think, was the writing of Richie and myself, my singing off the way he writes, the way he plays guitar, his possibly playing guitar off the way I sing, and of course his long eyelashes. I like them. I don't know if you could really say that consciously took anyone else's influence. I can only tell you who I enjoy listening to, not only who I've listened to, but who I've been, again, unconsciously influenced by. The Beatles, certainly. Any musician would be foolish to say he hasn't been influenced a bit by the Beatles about the effects, the techniques that they've used. It's something so innovative that now we say, why didn't we think of that? We didn't think of it, they did. I think that was probably one of my biggest influences. Being a vocalist, I can only talk about vocal influences at the moment. I'll let Richie carry on with some of his instrumental influences. I try to listen to a wide range of vocalists to steal whatever I can from them, whatever I'm capable of stealing, and incorporate it into my own style.
Why I'm so interested in the medieval sound is because my hobby is psychic research, and I believe in supernatural and reincarnation. This creeps in, and I think that I was around maybe in the 16th century. I'm positive I was around.
You still are.
And as far as influences go, I was very interested in Les Paul when he was the first guitarist. I think he came out about 1952 with Les Paul and Mary Ford. And he was the first guitarist to play with multi-echo and synchronized guitar, speeding up guitar. I think he was the first guitarist upon the scene that made the electric guitar talk. I know there was Charlie Christian, who was the first electric guitarist. There was also Django Reinhardt, who was taking taxi cabs from Paris to Lyon, which cost him about £500. And he was often hiding in the woods as a gypsy. I knew him very well. But my main influences from after Les Paul was the Beatles again. Paul McCartney, I think, is a genius. and up to this day I like Jethro Tull very much. You don't agree on a sound, you just let it happen. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It happened, and we were very excited about the sound that we had. It's nothing drastically different from anything else, but it has that flavour of the medieval touch which we wanted in the beginning. So I'm very happy about that, the way it's come across.
A perfect example of that is a track that you should hear called Catch the Rainbow. Catch the Rainbow is lyrically medieval in that it's concerning a stable boy who, a lucky guy, makes it with a lady of the court, one of the kind of upper class. She sneaks off to his little stable and sleeps on his straw bed every night, and they think that it's all going to work, but as we rudely find out, it never does, and they kind of go their own way. But it's a track that I think Richie and I are both very proud of. Catch the Rainbow, again, our idea of the futility of man versus woman, I think. But quite a representative track from what we're trying to give you. And again, this is Ronnie James Dio of Rainbow.
There's 5 guys in the group: organ, bass, guitar, drums. What do you do, Ron?
Drums, organ, guitar, and occasionally I produce every album by Rainbow.
Can we have somebody who sings?
Not at the moment.
Oh. Well, what do you do?
Well,
you sung on the LP, didn't you?
No, I didn't. That was Robert.
Oh, Robert.
Yes.
No, Ronnie James Dio on vocals. We have Mickey Lee Soul on keyboards, who doesn't know what he's doing.
Never will.
That's an in-joke, which is not very funny. On drums we have Gary Driscoll, who used to be a ballet dancer, which has got nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Oh, bass guitar.
Bass guitar, we have a number of people at the moment. His name is Jimmy Bain. Jimmy Bain, who's a Scotsman, on bass. There was also some guests that came in now and again. There was the vicar, who used to go around blessing people, who were very religious. And there was the Wasp, who was buzzing around. There was the Eagle, the Shark. And also there was Shoshana on vocals. Huey McDowell came in when he wanted a drink and used to play cello.
I just wanted to mention how difficult it is to get people who have played in other bands together before, to match personalities, to match musical tastes, to be sure that everyone is happy. Right, that's it. Richie is... if this was only on video, you'd see that it was the old fist in the palm trick, because that's the way to do it. It's the old whip across the back and no other way. We found that kind of working socially first makes it for easier going in the studio. If you like each other, you can play good, likable music. If you don't like each other, you play very bad music. But I guess there's some people who have played good music and didn't like each other. But anyway, there wasn't really much of birth pain going on in this. It's very easy to be established first when you've got a Richie Blackmore on your side, especially when you've got a Ronnie James Dio on your side. You can't really lose. The other musicians, Gary...
Nose, by the way. Tell them that.
I won't tell them.
Warn them.
No, I just want to mention the other people in the band again. Gary Driscoll, the drummer, Jimmy Bain, the bass player, keyboard man Mickey Lee Sewell. It's kind of a family affair. A family affair in that we get along socially. We like each other's friends. Well, now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's one friend of Richie's that I just can't handle at all. But we basically we have the same likes, the same dislikes, which makes all of it very easy. We really didn't have to worry too much about being on the road, because all we've done so far is record the LP. We haven't been on the road touring yet. We will be very, very shortly. At the moment, we're getting to know each other more musically as far as rehearsals go. As far as anything else goes, I'm bored and I don't care.
There are very many very good rock bands